Hello Admirals and welcome back to my channel where I talk to you about Battlefleet Gothic, the Space Fleet game based in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I've seen a question come up numerous times in different circles about official Battlefleet colour schemes. And in all honesty, there aren't many, quite frankly. It's kind of strange because you look at like Warhammer 40,000 and it's well documented, the different colour schemes for Space Marine chapters, Imperial Guard regiments, even Eldar and with their different aspects in their craft worlds, even Orcs with their different clans have their own colour schemes. And that's not well documented for Battlefleet Gothic. You can extrapolate out those colour schemes to some of the other fleets. So Craftworld, Uthway are going to probably be, cream and black, and, Blood Angels are going to be red in space as well as in 40k. And it's the same again with like Necron. Some of their Tomb Worlds have their own schemes that you'd be able to extrapolate out. But that's not the same for the Imperial Navy and the Imperial Guard and things like that, because they're different. And typically, battle fleets are sector by sector. And a sector can have a completely different colour scheme. So what are some of the official ones? So there isn't much info on that, but I'm going to just show you in this video a couple that I've found in the books. And then we'll go into a few others that are kind of floating around, but it's kind of wishy-washy where that kind of scheme comes from. So let's check it out. So where do we find the official colour schemes for the various different Imperial battle fleets? Well, there are a number of magazines and the rule books and all that, and a few other sort of books I'll show you in a sec, which had some colour pages showing different modelling items. And so this one is in the original blue book. And then there's others like the Armada book and things like that, different magazines they had. This is all in black and white originally, but then they did have some colours on sort of the insets. So this was the Slaanesh fleet that someone had painted. Cacophony Rex by the Demon Prince. So there were some official colour schemes that you could argue that are in there. So for the Imperial Navy, in the original book, they had sort of how to paint different schemes, but they didn't actually describe if any of these schemes were related to a particular sector battle fleet. But there are a couple that are named actually in the books. The most obvious one and the big one is what everyone sees a lot of is Battlefleet Gothic. So Battlefleet Gothic is kind of the classic green scheme, and they talk to you about how you can paint this in the original book and things like that, and they give you different alternative schemes that are, as they describe it, interesting to give a go, as they say. But the classic Gothic scheme, which is a green hull with then a white prow and then gold trim, that's the kind of the most famous colour scheme you'll probably see anywhere. So that's the official colour scheme for Battlefleet Gothic. And now they had other schemes and things like that for different Orcs and Eldar and things like that, but we're going to specifically talk about Battlefleet Gothic in this one and the rest of the sector fleets. So you have that original colour scheme that we have, and that's the official one that we can say works for Battlefleet Gothic and that sector fleet, which is great. Now, the next big one, which is probably the most obvious one then, is from Armada. So in the Armada book, we've got some other, again, a couple of colour insects. This is Battlefleet Gothic, which is interesting, and they've got a few cool different schemes that they, again, have shown, but don't describe who it belongs to or what fleets and things like that. But we do have a few other colour schemes in here, which is pretty spectacular, to be perfectly honest, because this doesn't appear in most other places, to be perfectly fair. So we have Battlefleet Armageddon described, which is this colour scheme, and it's the gold with a white and red and silver sort of trim. So we have that as an official scheme as well. Love the Apocalypse battleship. But yeah, so the Armageddon battle fleet is this gold colour and the white and red. And honestly, this colour scheme is very reminiscent of a certain colour scheme on the artwork. So this is Battlefleet Armageddon in the artwork, which is great. So we have that's two
schemes. But what about these ones in here as well? Where are they from? Well, I went through all the books and everything like that to try and see if I could actually find any more. And unfortunately, could only find these ones. But, and a couple of different schemes there. But in these magazines, and in one particular magazine, which is this one, this is issue 13, they actually have the same scheme, and they describe the blue and white scheme that you see as Battlefleet Cadia. So we have Battlefleet Gothic, which is green and white, Battlefleet Armageddon, which is gold and red and white, and now we've got Battlefleet Cadia and the Bastion fleets, which come up as blue prow and white. Blue hull and white prow, even with some gold and red trim. So that's that Bastion Cadia scheme. So if you want to paint fleets around from that Bastion fleet lists, or from Battlefleet Cadia and the like, and the sectors around it, then typically they're going to be officially classed as blue. So we've got Battlefleet Cadia here in Sedmund Spheres, which is pretty cool. And that's pretty much it for like the official schemes, except for one more that's kind of famous, which is Battlefleet Backer. And the interesting thing about Battlefleet Backer, again, it appears in one of the Gothic magazines, number 10. An interesting thing is it describes Battlefleet Backer here, and it's described as white with a white prow and black trim, or with a green prow here, which is interesting. Now, why that's interesting is throughout, like, if you look at across the internet, everything, they describe Battlefleet Backer as actually being completely not this colour, and they describe it as a red hull with a black prow. So I don't know where that red and black prow come from, because this is the only sort of reference I can find to Battlefleet Backer colour scheme. So if you're painting Battlefleet Backer, apparently it's white, which is interesting, because I always thought it was red and black. So if you know where the red and black comes from, and you have an official colour scheme, can you tell me where it's from? That would be great. That would be, I'd ideally like to hear that. Now, there is another scheme that is well renowned, and that's Battlefleet Solar. And Battlefleet Solar is described as having a white hull and a golden prow, and that comes from a few different sources in the lore, in the books. So some of the heresy books and things like describe it as being white with gold, but they're not actually visually represented in any of the BFG magazines. So that can be classed as an official scheme as well, I suppose. So we know Battlefleet Gothic, Battlefleet Armageddon, Battlefleet Cadia and the Bastion fleets, apparently Battlefleet Backer, and Battlefleet Solar. And they're really the only 5 that I can actually find in anywhere that depicts what that colour scheme is. So if you know any more, that'd be great. Now, there is one other cool scheme that I think people should be aware of, which isn't technically a Battlefleet sector, not really in the lore, but it does appear in this book, right? And it's in Warpstorm, which is really cool. And it is this amazing Battlefleet, and they've called it Battlefleet Akins. Or Atkins. And this is one by Rob Atkins, one of the Warhammer World Studio painters back in the day. And he painted it in sort of a yellowy gold with a black prow and white trim. And I just wanted to show you that because I think it's an absolutely beautiful scheme. So not technically probably an official Battlefleet, but it's an example of a Battlefleet that is actually in the magazine. So, and that's it, Admirals. So, where do we kind of leave that? I'd say they're the 5 kind of key schemes. Battlefleet Backer's a bit, we don't really know. Kind of don't know where that red one's from, but otherwise, that's it. So, otherwise, go nuts with your painting, I say, Admirals, because, that's all we've got officially in the books.
There you have it, Admirals. Kind of where I can really officially say these are where these colours come from, and there are a few others that I can't really find any kind of notation or description or pictures of them. It's kind of just suck it and see. So there are loads and loads of sectors, and so I would say go nuts with your colour schemes, quite frankly, because it could be anything really. There's no real official ones apart from kind of the ones I showed you. If you have any more that you're aware of, that you know about, let me know in the chat. The computer games are kind of not canon also get a few of the official schemes wrong as well. So they're not a good source, but they are some cool color schemes in that in those games, by the way. But they're not kind of official. So, but if you have any others that you've seen in books or White Dwarfs that I don't know about, or others, let me know in the chat. It'd be great to check them out. Until then, Admirals, see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.